The Chimera are a form of parasite that has the ability to wipe out entire species through overwhelming force and superior thinking. Their forms of attack are brutal and ruthless, and any defense is only going to temporarily offer any sort of respite to the native species. But what exactly are the Chimera and where do they come from? Well, you've come to the right place. Let's discuss how this planet descended into chaos so quickly and almost led to the extinction of the human race. So now that I have you hooked with that, I'm going to be trying something new here. Usually I'll just drop into the lore and biology of a creature without really giving you any sort of information concerning who or what they are. And it has become quite apparent to me that there is a possibility maybe you guys haven't played all the games that I have played. So think of the Resistance games as sort of a guinea pig towards a possible structuring of videos later. So let me know if you liked it down in the comments or have any suggestions, as I would like to be able to tweak this and hone it in a way that kind of everybody enjoys. Anyways, the Chimera are a species hailing from an unknown planet but have been around for quite some time. Being around for such an extended period of time has afforded the species the technological advances necessary for their survival and the conquering of other species. That being said, they are not an unstoppable race of monsters that can't be defeated. According to the lore, at some point roughly 60 million years ago, the original Chimera arrived at Earth. The Chimera colonization was conducted by the original species, who are known as pure Chimera. Presumably, these would have been the creatures that were responsible for wiping out the dinosaurs based on the interactions with the native human race 60 million years later. For a time, things were going very well for the pure Chimera. They spread across the entire planet much like humans do now and built many structures. Some of these structures in particular are highly important as they provide the capability of opening up a wormhole back to their original home planet. However, not all was going to progress as the Chimera had hoped. It seems that during their inhabitation of Earth, the Chimera ran into a war with another alien species. Let's just say that this species completely wiped the floor with the Chimera. They were forced to completely abandon Earth and retreat across the stars. Earth is going to still show the signs of this war, as a crater left behind in the Yucatan Peninsula is a direct result of the two warring factions. Now, whether it was an attempt by the alien species to annihilate the Chimera by throwing an asteroid at the planet, thus raising the temperature, a bomb left by the Chimera for the invading species, or perhaps even just an excavation, it is completely unknown. The only thing that is known is there exists a tremendous tower at the center that is leftover gray tech from earlier colonization by the Chimera. Fast forward 60 million years or so later to Russia in 1908 during the Tunguska event, and the Chimera are back to retake the planet. What was believed to be a small meteor or asteroid strike turned out to be a spacecraft or capsule slicing through the Earth's atmosphere. This object would level several kilometers of trees, but thankfully it took place in an uninhabited area as it contained enough force to completely destroy a large city. This event marked the beginning of the invasion of Earth, but many wouldn't know it for over 19 years. Russia at the time began an internal struggle, much like that of a gangrenous limb's immune system struggling for control over the limb. Over the course of 19 years, the isolationist nation would battle with the Chimera for survival, but bit by bit, they began to chip away at the country. The virus introduced into the ecosystem had the ability to convert the creatures it ran across or came into contact with. This would quickly lead to small outlying settlements to become converted by Chimera into Chimera hybrids. Animals also suffered a similar fate, changing into beastly apparitions of their former selves. But the worst is a human Chimera hybrid. More than likely it began in pockets here and there out in the wild. Hunters wouldn't come back from trips, search parties who went looking for them would come back a few members short, entire villages eventually would start to go dark, and anyone showing up to trade would either be met by hybrids or silence. Eventually, enough villages went quiet for the government to begin to take notice. By this point, however, towns began to break communication with the outside world, and it could be traced back to a central point during the Tunguska event. The government reacted in the best way that it knew how, which was to combat and understand the threat. However, by this point, it would be much too late for Russia. The military was sent in, but it wouldn't be enough. Scientists attempted to understand the virus by injecting it into soldiers who volunteered, but inadvertently just created abominations known as the cloven. Eventually, some intelligence agencies would begin to take notice of the increasingly strange and erratic climate of Russia. The weather was getting abnormally cold, but they concluded it was a byproduct of the failed experiments of Russia and what they were trying to conduct. By 1927, Russia was fully aware of the Chimeran threat, but still remained isolationist, perhaps not wanting to seem weak and wanting other nations traipsing soldiers through their nation. The Chimera would eventually convert soldiers at an alarming rate before completely conquering the nation in the late 1930s. For roughly a decade, Russia was completely silent, which made the rest of the world extremely uneasy. Then from nowhere, the Chimera finally left Russia after building their forces and converting every single creature in Siberia. During this time, a lot of historical events took place. Mainly Basically, Europe still fought the Great War, but the United States never joined in. This was due to Spain sinking an American ship and the United States being infuriated by it. This led to a general propensity for the US to remain isolationist and not interact with any of the happenings of Europe. The United States never experienced the Great Depression, but as time went on, they would begin to open up more trade routes with Europe. Eventually, a president by the name of Noah Grace won the presidency and turned America into an isolationist state. From here, the nuclear bomb was still invented in 1944, but in 1949, King Edward visited the United States and leaked the information of the Chimera to Noah Grace and urged that this was a world problem and not just a European problem. Later that same year, the Chimera would officially begin their invasion of Europe. Spires were launched on major cities which contained crawlers containing the virus. These crawlers would infect a person with the virus by injecting it into their bloodstream. This would then cause the person to go comatose and begin their ultimate metamorphosis into a Chimera hybrid. Europe fell within a matter of weeks as loss after loss befell any military that attempted to meet the threat. Outgunned, out-teched, and clearly outmatched, humanity fell in droves to the Chimeran threat. Eventually, they would be backed all the way up to the UK. Believing they were safe from the Chimeran threat, they foolishly didn't prepare as well as they should have. The Chimera dug through the English Channel and would begin their attack on the English a few weeks later. Eventually, all of England would be conquered and humanity would begin to realize it was majorly screwed if they didn't begin taking this threat as seriously as they should. This is where we pick up the biology of the Chimera species. Overall, the species is going to be much larger, stronger, and able to heal quicker, and in general is much more intelligent than humanity. While humans are individual creatures having their own thoughts, goals, and opinions, what have you, the Chimera are a hive mind species consuming everything in their path. So they are really a parasitic creature feeding on entire species. Although this does raise the philosophical question about the dibs question, technically the Chimera were here before primates were even a thing, so while we may have evolved on this planet, is it all that wrong that the Chimera want planet Earth? Screw that. Humanity is actually number one. Anyways, back to the Chimera, there aren't really a species to be trifled with, and their brutality in combat shows that. Known to eat their own injured and other humans, you wouldn't think that these technologically superior species was really that much further along than us, but then again, I suppose that these actually aren't pure Chimera. Perhaps something about the animal genome turns them into monsters. One of the things that is most interesting about the Chimera is their adaptability. Able to completely learn British tactics in a matter of weeks, the defenses of England quickly fell due to this being the case. The Chimeran would observe humans and learn everything that they do, how they act, how they react, when they could expect attacks, and when they wouldn't attack. So maybe there is a little bit of credence to their intelligence. Anyways, I hope this little bit of lore has got you interested in the biology of the different Chimera forms I will be talking about in later episodes. I know that not everyone has played Resistance, so now you have a generalized idea of why these monsters need to be put down in the earth. I know this is on the shorter side, but I didn't want to just shove a whole bunch of lore down your throat with no biology. So that being said, keep an eye out for me shoving biology down your throat in the coming weeks. If you guys did enjoy the video and you're new, then please give it a sub if you would like to keep up with the channel. If you are already a sub, then hitting that like gets the video out there and gets me kind of infecting recommended tabs everywhere, so that's also awesome. This one was a Twitter poll twice in a row and it came in second place both times, so there's already some interest in the series, I believe. But if you would like to follow me on Twitter, it's at Roanoke Gaming with 2 N's. I will also drop my Discord link in the description if you are interested in that. I'll put my Patreon link in there as well if you're interested, which is going to be the best way to help the channel. Also, I would like to thank my patrons. At the scientist tier, we have Layla Lizarin, and then we have Bowen Goodwin. Next up, our residents are Richard Muhlenberg, Evan Osborne, and A. Laurentis. Our geneticists are Andrew Lawson, Divine Whisper, John Russo, Laffy No Skill, and Steve N. Holding down their masters in biology, we have Adam Hartswick, Brian H. Briggs, Cameron Smith, Javier D. Rodriguez, Scott Grant, and the Otterman. And last but not least, with their bachelors in morphological sciences, we have Ahigao Comics, Alex the Gun Guy, Average Soul, Captain Gasmask, Dustin Ellis, Eric Scott Gillies, Greater Jeans 83, Jims, Joseph Radical, Professor Bennips, and Zachary Baker. Thank you guys for your continued support. So if you made it this far, I am truly impressed. Let me know what you think down in the comments about adding a little bit of extra lore before kicking off the series. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see y'all in the next one.